try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, you check as I'm checking.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Flamespyro art for beginners. We're looking at our Frenchie portrait and we're going to continue on with building the fur of our French bulldog. And the last lesson I'd spoke to you a little about how to build, well, to start building the coat of fur for our dog. If I can just find my reference photo, I shall work from that. Okay. Right, so when we're creating a realistic looking animal portrait, there's many things we have to take into consideration. I'll start off just by saying I'm using the extra small spray shade at the moment, and my heat setting is at 2 on the Optima, and this is on a piece of birch ply. Okay, so we'll have a look at how we can start capturing some of that magical depth that a dog portrait, you know, to really make it stand out. So let's take, for example, under the dog's eye. If you see on the reference photo, there is obviously a ridge. We have the dog's leathery eye, which then comes over and round down into like sort of a cheek recess area. And it's areas like this that we're searching for. These are the areas we want to capture, because these will give our piece depth and detail. So I'm using very short strokes, and this is going to be an area that will be darker than the fur coming from the dog's eye. So we've got the fur coming down. Let's just turn this heat down a little touch more because it's a bit hotter than what I'd like it to be. Remember, we always have to have the heat setting under our control at all times. If you feel that pen is burning too hot and it's adding shading too heavily, then just turn the heat down until you find that nice comfortable level, which this is now at. This is at heat setting about 1.5. I found just a nice gentle heat. So let's take a look at this eye area. Now, as we know, when we're thinking about portraits with realism, we have to look beyond just the flat image. We have to try and see it in a 3-dimensional way, in our mind's eye. This is done by spending maybe several hours, couple of days maybe, to all of a sudden you will see a 3-dimensional image begin to appear in front of you, and that's what we're focusing on, and that's the ultimate goal, is to create something that looks like it has more than just a flat surface, something that has depth and realism and all that magic stuff. So we're going to carry on with the strokes, always moving in the direction of the dog's fur, which is critical. It's no good if we wanted to show a flow of fur going down, we can't shade sideways or upwards or that way. We must move our strokes in the direction of the fur, which is pretty obviously needless to say, but I shall say it anyway. So we're just going to build some fur beneath the Frenchie's eye to begin with. You'll see we're not adding a great deal of shading, just nice gentle tones. This is a technique called layering, where we have a nice gentle heat, but we're going to make many passes over the same area as we layer up the coat of fur. Okay, so we're getting to where the wrinkle, I called them ruffles in previous videos, but the wrinkle from down the muzzle area. Frenchies have a lot of wrinkles, don't they? So when we get to the wrinkle area, this is a saying that I learnt from Darryl Tank, who's a great pencil artist. His saying was, where there is less light, it must go darker. So if we think about our Frenchie's muzzle as it comes back, and here is one of the folds, the wrinkles that come down. Inside that wrinkle or fold, there'll be no light at all, will there? So as we come out of the fold, we'll have a little darker area. And then we blend our fur back out into the light. Obviously we're going to go a lot darker than that, but at this stage we'll just keep it a gentle darkening. Now the fur starts to change direction a little. As it was moving that way, it's now starting to sweep towards the, like, sort of the, what would it, because the cheekbone sort of area, I suppose. So moving with the direction of the fur, we start dropping down until we reach this area. And there's the fold, so that's a dark spot, which we'll utilise that greatly as the piece unfolds. But for now, we'll just continue on till we reach this indentation. Okay, so we're at the point now where we've reached this first marker. Now, without having a proper digital reference photo in front of me, I can see the fur is starting to sweep off in this direction. So I'm using my pen just on the very tip edge of it now. I've got it tilted and I'm just using the very tip of the pen to see which way my fur is going. And don't worry at this stage, because we're burning low and slow, we can correct any little mistakes we make or anything, because we're not overcommitting ourselves to anything at this stage. We're just purely trying to unlock the shape of our Frenchie. Now, if I get a pencil a second, there is a line that comes from here and it runs round and it runs round to around here, but it's actually more circular than that, so it runs around there. If we get rid of that inner line, this is because this part forms part of the actual muzzle. So we follow the fur in the direction it's now taking. Which, as we move along the dog, it starts to go off in a different direction, more angled downwards, so we can follow that line. Okay, then we can see this first big step. Let's blend our way up to that step just by adding a little bit more shading. From when we're going from like light to darks, we can't just leave an empty space and then go boom back, dark. When we're searching for realism, it has to be gently blended into the wood with time and patience. Remember, there's all the time in the world. There's no rush to creating a piece of art. A piece of art will be ready when it's ready. It'll be finished when it's finished. Sometimes we question, I know I certainly do question, is a piece of art ever truly finished? I find that there's always something I can tinker with here or there, and there's a bit there I'm not happy with, and next thing I've spent another 6 hours on a piece that I thought I'd finished. Happens to us all. Okay, so we're now, what I'll discuss, sorry, I've jumped ahead. From here in the corner of the dog's eye, obviously it wraps round and goes off, carries on down the dog, doesn't it? So we have to show them shapes with our shading. And we do this by dark at either end of the curl of the arch, and then lighter shading in the apex, the highest point of it, wherever that may be, which looks to me on this picture it's somewhere up near the muzzle. And always keep a look on the direction of the fur. I'd love to be able to see the digital image of this beautiful Frenchie, but we're just going to have to work from my imagination. And your imagination. If you put 100 of us together and said to us all, I want you to do a wood burning of this French bulldog, every single one of the 100 pieces would be different. We would all see it differently. And that is one of the beauties of art. There is no right or wrong way. There are little skills you can learn to improve your art skills. You need little techniques and things, but everybody's different, so your portrait will look different to mine, and there's neither one of them is right, neither one of them is wrong. And down here we're getting right down to the bottom of the mouth. At that stage we're really going downhill there. This fur is coming off in this direction, so I'm going to move in that direction. And I would work my way out, carry on searching. To build my base coat. This is all just a base coat. If you think about when we're doing realism, we can't simply just add one layer of shading. The secret to building a piece of art that has like bulk and, you know, real depth to it is layering. It's building the bulk, building the mass. So at this point here, we've reached the edge of the front of the Frenchie. Now, round here is down the side of his head. So we're still following the fur in the direction, but we'll just leave a gap there for now. And we'll keep working this fur in the direction that it's going, which is all pulling on a angle downwards. I'm using my pen, like I said, on a tilt and just using the tip. We very rarely use these sort of space shaders like totally flat as an iron. Very rarely. That's only for certain jobs we would use a pen in that way. Most of the time we will just use either the tip or the edge of the pen. There, my dog's snoring away in the background. I remember I'd spoke to you in an earlier lesson about this leathery sort of substance that these Frenchies have under their eyes. It's weird, it's like almost the same as the nose. I'm just going to add a little bit more of that in at this stage. And the pen would need to really be hotter for the dark. But as I'm not super confident yet on the shape and everything that I'm wanting to show, I'm not going to overcommit myself to anything. This is one of them times where you can use a little bit more of the flat of the pen. Very light, well there is, I'm not using any pressure at all. I'm not even using the weight of the pen at this stage. When my hand rested on the board, if anything, I'm lifting weight off and just barely touching down. I know I need to get dark right up to the edge of the eye, and the eye is far from finished. But we know from our reference photo, just past the edge of the eye is where there's a drop off. And a change in direction of fur as the shape and contour of the dog starts to reveal itself. So for all of those of you who are embarking on this journey with me. This is what I want you to focus on for this week. It's just this front section of our dog. On a nice low heat with a space shader. Just start to build a coat of fur. You may say, just that section. That section could take you several hours or more to capture the right shape of the dog. Remember, keep your strokes light, because there's going to be tonal differences as we move forward with the piece. So at this stage, just put like a light base coat of fur down. And always keep them strokes moving in the direction of the dog. We'll probably do this we'll go for 45 minutes today. Okay, so I'm on an area there where I'm looking down the side of the dog. I'm trying to see it in more than one dimension. I'm trying to see it in 3 dimensions. With this particular Frenchie, I can see many other opportunities for us to capture depth. I've put a mark here, which is where there's a dark patch and a whisker or two coming out. It's another one of the drop-offs of the body of the dog. So my dog's fur is running off in this direction. I'll start to try and dial in a little bit of the blending of this area. Try and pull a little bit of it together. I know, as we discussed in the wrinkle, there's no light in there, so right on the edge of that wrinkle is our darkest shade that we're going to use. And the eye isn't complete as yet. As something falls off the wall, the eye isn't complete as yet because there's so many more features we need to add around the eye before we can finalize the shading of the eye. You'll find you'll go off in tangents. You'd be working away down here under his cheekbone, and next minute you'll find yourself off up here working another area and you'll be over here working somewhere else. You jump about as you create your portrait, so you can start seeing like of a more three-dimensional view try and appear in your mind's eye. We know the fur going off from the corner of the eye is all going up. So our strokes must go in the direction of the fur. You can see just within 2 minutes I've switched from down there and I'm off on a tangent up here. But it all helps me to start seeing this beautiful dog start coming to life in more than one dimension. And as I'm shading very lightly at the moment, I'm not overcommitting myself to anything. I'm just merely adding a base coat of fur. But I am doing it in the direction that the fur is travelling in. And this is a thing called building muscle memory. I like to work on low heats because I'm not a naturally gifted artist by any means. So I work slowly so my mind can build the muscle memory it needs to capture this dog in a three-dimensional view. A portrait of this size is an A5. If I was to be doing this as a commission for somebody, it would probably take me a week or two, depending on how good the reference photo was. So that gives you some sort of idea. As times, scales, you know, when people say how long does it take to do a portrait, or sometimes it is how long is a piece of string. It just depends. Now I'd love to go on with you for the whole piece and show you the working of it all, but I know you'd get bored before I finished, so it'd be a waste of my time and yours. So we have to keep it in bite-sized chunks, don't we? So this fur at this point is now moving further along the dog, and it's shifting directions. And I've got this line here which signifies a sort of the end of the face area, and then it falls away to the neck. So I could add that now if I wished, which I do wish to. So I know my boundary. All the transfer lines are for is just look at them as just like boundaries and edges to work towards. That's all they're there for. They're just put in as many as you need so you can get your proportions correctly. You know, I know a friend of mine is scared to death of the transferring of an image. The transfer is purely there just to help us with the dimensions, to get the eyes set right, to get the nose in the right place, the ears in the right place, etc. But it doesn't have to be, you know, a masterpiece of a transfer. Some people will need to transfer a lot more. Some will need to transfer less. Those truly gifted may not need any transfer at all. And I'm at nowhere near that level of artistry where I need a transfer, I need boundaries. So for this week's lesson, just add your base coat, even if it's just a half of the dog. And I'll do the same. And we'll see what we all come up with for next week. So the key points: low heat, always move in the direction of the fur, and building muscle memory, embedding that image into our mind's eye, into our creative eye. The more we look back into at the image, the more it's embedding into our mind, and we can look beyond just a flat. We want to see this in 3 dimensions. So I hope that made sense. I hope some of you are working this piece with me. If you are, please smash the like button to let me know that you're wanting to carry on the journey together, and I'll be more than happy to continue this journey of the French Bulldog with you. As my slogan says, every hour of burning is an hour of learning, and it is for me as well. You know, I'm not a grand master, I'm still learning myself, and there's always new things to learn. Now here at the edge, I can see on my reference photo, just off the printed one I'm working off at the minute, the fur is darker there, and then there's going to be an extreme tonal change here when we drop down into the neck. Sorry, the clacking of my jewellery on my wrist. To keep your strokes nice and light, and always in the direction of Mr. Frenchie. And we shall meet up again next week with our base coats on just on one side of the dog, hopefully all completed. Concentrate on looking at the directions of the fur. That is a crucial element into building a piece of art with realism. Okay, so I shall see you in next week's lesson once I've completed my base coat and started to see the dog in more than one dimension. And we'll then go on to the next stage. So just add your base coats in the direction of the fur, building that muscle memory. So for here, for example, we're up on the top of the dog's head. So the fur is moving off, sweeping round to the down. Okay, I hope that makes sense, and I shall pick up with you again in a couple of days' time once I've done my base layering. Happy pyroing, everybody. I hope you enjoyed just this brief look into building the base coat of the dog's fur and starting to try and build an image in our mind and building muscle memory. Low heat, move in the direction of the fur, and you won't go far wrong. Okay, so I'll see you again in the next episode when the base layering of fur will be down and we can move on from there. Okay, speak to you all soon. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.